So, welcome everyone to the Society of Thoracic Surgeons General Thoracic Surgery Database user group call. Today is Wednesday, February the 22nd of 2023. Thank you everyone for joining today. On the call with me today, we've got myself and we have Carol Crone, Director of the STS National Databases. And then we have Ruth Raleigh, our GTSD consultant, and she's going to provide some educational updates for us today. We do have two polling questions, so get your fingers ready. So we'll have those coming up soon. So just be ready. All right, in terms of the agenda, I just have some brief STS updates. I don't have a lot of new information in regards of updates from our last call, so you'll see a lot of repeat information, but I did want to just go over that quickly again for those that were not on the call, not on our last call. After our STS updates, I'll give a brief harvest close review. We do have the spring 23 harvest is coming to a close next Friday on March the 3rd. So I'm going to do a brief overview of reports and steps to go over when you are preparing for your harvest close. After that, I'll turn things over to Ruth for some educational updates. And then as usual, we will finish everything up with your Q&A. Please be sure to submit your questions via the Q&A function. We also have the raise hand function enabled, so if you'd like to ask your question in person, please be sure to raise your hands and make sure that your microphone is enabled from your end, and then we'll unmute you and you're free to ask your question. So again, just a reminder to put all those questions into the Q&A and not the chat. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Again, just a review from our last call. I'm sure many of you are aware, we did send out an update on the new support plan for all three databases. As you're aware, STS is now handling Tier 1 support internally. We're no longer utilizing that Tier 1 support with IQVIA. So if you do have questions regarding your participant report, you have questions regarding the IQVIA dashboard, you have questions regarding your IQVIA login, please reach out to us at stsdb_helpdesk@sts.org. Once you submit your questions to the STSDB help desk, our support team will either answer your questions. If they are unsure of the answer, they will forward it on to me. If I can't answer it, or if I'm unable to answer it, it'll either be forwarded to me or forwarded on to Tier 2 at IQVIA for a response. In regards to contact updates, if you have questions regarding your contracts, or if you have any other general database questions, payments, fees, anything that covers any just type of general questions surrounding the database, please email us at stsdb@sts.org. And as usual for clinical support, please submit all of those clinical questions as you continue to do using the clinical question request form. When you are submitting those clinical questions, please ensure that you are selecting the correct data version, 5.21, and the correct database is selected. So again, make sure you're selecting the correct data version for the question in which you are submitting. Those questions are filtered into certain folders for Ruth. So again, please ensure that that you are selecting the correct data version for your questions. All right. Additional updates, I just mentioned, the spring 23 harvest is what spring 23 harvest includes our surgery dates of January 1, 2020 through December 31st of 2022. And that harvest is scheduled to close on March the 3rd, next Friday, a week from this coming Friday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So please, please, please be sure to submit your data files before the deadline, prior to 11:58 p.m. Eastern time. So again, we encourage you to submit your files early and often. And once you are done with your data submission, opt-out date is no later than March the 4th. So if you choose to opt out of the current harvest, you must complete that opt-out form no later than March the 7th. GTSD public reporting update. STS public reporting website has been updated with results from the fall 2022 Fall 22 harvest. That does include OR dates of July 1, 2019 through June 30th of 2022. And an official email communication was sent out to all GTSD participants announcing that GTSD public reporting website data refresh. If you have any questions regarding public reporting, please reach out to us at publicreporting@sts.org, and Sydney and her team can answer any and all public reporting related questions. I unfortunately am not able to answer public reporting related questions. So again, if you have questions regarding your consents, wanting to consent, updating consents, anything public reporting, please reach out to Sydney and her team at publicreporting@sts.org. Also, just a reminder that the February training manual and the FAQ summary was posted, and that is available out on the STS website. Okay, as we mentioned, the spring 23 harvest close is quickly approaching. Again, next Friday, a week from this Friday, March the 3rd. And I just wanted to take a few moments just to go over the spring 23, just the harvest close checklist. The harvest close checklist is a resource that is provided to you in the IQVIA library. So I just wanted to take a couple of moments and highlight each of the reports and the tools that are available to you that you should be utilizing prior to closing the harvest. So I'm just going to take a couple of moments and go through those. If you have additional questions once I review each of these reports, I'm happy to do a walkthrough or pull something up on the screen. If you have questions after this presentation or after the webinar today, please feel free to shoot me an email directly, and I'll be happy to hop on a call with you if you have any questions about utilizing the reports or running the reports or anything like that. So just feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to help you in any way I can prior to harvest close. So when you're preparing for harvest close, there are several resources that are available to you. The first one that we recommend is reviewing your data quality report for each of your upload submissions. The data quality report will help you resolve any critical errors or warnings. After reviewing your data quality report, you can also utilize review the critical summary report. And I have a snapshot here of the critical summary report, an example of what one looks like. So when you're utilizing the critical summary report, you would want to enter your data file submission dates. These are not the surgery dates. This is the date range of the files that were submitted. So for example, for this participant, I just picked a date range of January 1, 2021 through today's date, February 22nd of 2023, and hit run report. Using these dates, you can get a summary of every single file that you've uploaded. You can see the dates, the earliest and latest surgery dates that were included in the file. You can see the total number of records successfully submitted, and any failed records. So the critical summary report is a good tool to review your uploads to verify surgery dates and a total number of records that were submitted for each upload. So that's definitely a good resource for you. An additional resource is the Harvest Summary Report. The Harvest Summary Report is located under the Operational Reports tab within the participant dashboard. So the Harvest Summary Report allows you to look at all critical errors and warnings for a specified date range. And so for example, I highly recommend using the date range for the entire analysis reporting period. So for this example here, I put in the date range for the spring 23 harvest. So for the spring 23 harvest, obviously the reporting period is from January 1, 2020 through 12/31/2022. And this allows you to see the total number of records for that date range that were submitted. So again, the Harvest Summary Report allows you to run a report that gives you all of the errors, warnings, and critical errors. So basically this gives you a summary of all the data quality reports, so you don't have to go back and look at each individual data quality report for each upload. So I highly recommend the Harvest Summary Report prior to harvest close. Put in that date range for the reporting period, run the report. You can again use this to verify the total number of records that are submitted and that you're expecting. Make sure that this number matches what you're expecting to see in the harvest versus what you uploaded. When you run this report and you're looking at the total number of records, please note the filters. I put the filters only, I'm looking at only analyzed cases and major analyzed cases. So for this participant, major analyzed cases for the reporting period, there are 164 records. It's just another way to cross-check about what you submitted versus what you're expecting. So you can also clear the filters out. You can do analyzed, non-analyzed, major, and minor. So I think before I set these filters, this number basically doubled for this participant. So it's just a good way to cross-check and ensure that the number of records that you harvested is exactly what you expected to upload. Another resource to utilize prior to harvest close is review the missing variable report. And again, this report is also located under the operational reports. And again, this report allows you to pinpoint any records that may contain missing data. It's very important to ensure that your mortality variables, the mortality discharge status, mortality 30-day status, are complete. Also, this report allows you to check any required fields, if any required fields are missing. Again, highly recommend you running this missing variable summary. And again, I encourage you to do the date range for the reporting period. So, and again, for this participant, I put in the date range of January 1, 2020 through 12/31/22, which includes the entire analytic period for the spring 23 harvest. Good news for this participant, they did not have any records with missing data. So when you have no records, you will get this message here, no data for specified range. So this means for this particular participant, they had no records that were missing, that included missing data. Also, it's important to note that unknown is considered as missing data in analysis. So again, this is just another report that you can use to utilize to make sure you're not missing any required fields. And most importantly, those mortality variables are complete. In addition to the participant, the missing variable report, if after you've reviewed all of those reports, another resource is to review the participant dashboard. The participant dashboard reflects numbers on what is currently in the data warehouse in real time. So this again allows you another method to confirm record counts, confirm your mortalities, and also another way to identify any records with missing or unknown data. So for this participant, I just took a snapshot. I'm looking specifically at the discharge information. I'm looking at those mortality variables. So I highlighted here status at 30 days after surgery. We have, again, you can confirm the counts. We have 603 alive. They have 5 records that are flagged as dead for 30 days after surgery, 0 unknown records and 0 missing. Also, I would utilize this to confirm that the patients here are coded correctly as 30-day mortalities. So again, it's just another way to confirm your mortalities, confirm your missing data, your unknowns. So again, utilize that participant dashboard for a quick real-time check of how your data is looking. And that's all. Again, like I said, just a quick overview of the tools that are available to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Happy to walk through some of those reports after Ruth is done, or if you'd rather do it individually, again, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I'm happy to work with you prior to your harvest close. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to you, Ruth.
Sounds good. Thanks, Leanne. Okay, so we're going to go just through a couple of clarifications on a few sequences that are important as you try to make sure that cases are entered correctly and analyzed appropriately. So this, I get a lot of questions on, or there's been some confusion, I guess, surrounding how do we validate whether or not patients have been readmitted at 30 days? And so a clarification was added back in March that absence of readmission cannot be inferred by absence of documentation, including institutions where you have access to Epic's Care Everywhere. because the patient could have been readmitted at a facility that doesn't have Epic. And so you truly have to either have a note from your doctor who saw your patient after 30 days, contact the patient, validate it with their primary care doctor, et cetera, and then keep track of that documentation. Just saying that there's no record of any readmissions and care everywhere is not sufficient. Do you want to go to the next slide? Thank you. This is a little Q&A scenario. So a patient went to the OR for an esophagectomy. However, before the esophageal resection occurred, the procedure was aborted for bleeding. The patient was admitted to the ICU, got better, goes back to the OR a couple days later and has the esophagectomy. Are both procedures required for entry? So of course, all procedures can be entered, but are they both required? And so you should be able to answer the poll. There we go. Option A is yes. I don't know. Hang on, let me move my thing.
No. Option A is no, only the first.
Thank you. My box popped over and I couldn't remember. B is no, only the second, and C is yes.
All right, looks like we still got some responses coming in. So we're a little all over the place here, Ruth. We got A, B, and C so far. So I'll give everybody just a few more. I can do my best Jeopardy music for you guys if you like.
Only if you hum it.
All right, let's go ahead and end the poll.
So the majority are correct. So only the second procedure is required for entry. Remember, the only procedures that have to be entered are lung cancer resections and esophageal cancer resections. So a curative intent, lung and esophageal cancer resections must be entered. So while the intent of the first procedure was to do a esophageal cancer resection, they didn't get there. So only the second procedure where they actually perform the esophagectomy is required for entry. The second one is the same case scenario. The question being, how would you code sequence 1380, which is multi-day operation? Would you say yes, no, or not sure?
Right. And we got a little bit of everything. It's like the majority is answering option B. We have a little bit everywhere for A, B, and C. Give it just another moment. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. It looks like the majority got
Again,
it correct.
B is the correct answer. If you want to go to the next slide, Leanne, it shows the definition of 1380, multi-day operation. Multi-day operation is really talking about a case, like a single trip to the OR that goes through midnight, not procedures that are not sort of planned staged procedures or anything like that. It's truly just, did your surgeon start at 11 p.m. and end at 2 a.m. Okay, next slide. I've gotten tons of questions about discharge to hospice and the patient is still alive. So what do you do if your patient was discharged to hospice and you're entering the case and they're currently still alive? So you are going to code still in hospital until the patient expires. I know that the patient is not still in the hospital, but you're going to have to say that they are still in the hospital until you have a date of death. And then you're going to have to go back to the data collection form, change your MT discharge stat sequence 4200 to discharge to hospice and put in the mortality date. A lot of data managers are trying to select discharge to hospice and leave mortality date blank, which doesn't work. Just functionally, the database doesn't like that because all discharges to hospice are counted as a death and should have a mortality date. And I think that's the end of my quick educational updates. I don't know if we won't, I don't know that we necessarily need to go through it entirely again, but I just want everyone to be aware that the analysis overview in the library is a really, really helpful tool if you're questioning what's going to be part of your star rating, like what cases are analyzed, like what does being an analyzed case even mean. All of that information is in that analysis overview. It's very important that if you are entering your lung cancer resections, that your primary category of disease is a lung cancer category of disease. And that you are putting your primary procedure as your primary procedure, not further down the list. And I think that's all I've got.
Awesome. Thank you, Ruth. Before we hop into questions, again, just my contact information here, as well as the other email addresses. If you need to get in touch with me, please email me at the email address below. Again, database operational questions regarding participation agreements, fees, general database questions. Please email us at stsdb@sts.org. And then for tech support, please email us at stsdb_helpdesk@sts.org. If you're not sure who to contact, just email me directly and I'll point you into the right direction. I'm happy to help in any way. Also, our next upcoming webinars, our next General Thoracic Monthly webinar is March the 8th, scheduled for 1:30 Central Time, and our next user group call is scheduled for March the 22nd at 2:30 Central. Ruth and again, I'll be traveling to General Thoracic Surgical Club on March the 8th, so Ruth and Carol will be handling that webinar for me on the 8th. So I will join you guys when I'm back on the March 22nd webinar. So just mark your calendars accordingly. And as always, STS will send out a reminder for upcoming webinars. All right, that's all that we have for today. Let's go ahead and tackle some questions. Looks like we've got some coming in. Ruth, I don't know if you're able to answer some of these or if you would prefer they be submitted as FAQs. I know we do have our core group call Friday for a lot of, I know you're being slammed with a lot of FAQs due to harvest close coming up and you're working through those as quickly as you can. But I'll defer to you.
We should probably mention that. So we had so many FAQs for the January core group session that we didn't quite make it through all of them. There's probably 5 questions that were outstanding. And then the February core group call needed to be rescheduled. And then with scheduling conflicts, it got bumped all the way till this week on Friday, which actually on some level is a really good thing because it means that we will have a core group call sort of very close to harvest ending, which means that there hopefully won't be a lot of outstanding questions that we won't be able to get in front of the core group. And I think there's actually a task force call before harvest closes too. So we'll be able to like manage all of that, like right up to the edge of harvest, which I think is really nice. There won't be things outstanding, but what it does mean is that there are some questions that have been out there longer than 30 days, particularly those cases that I took to the January core group call that we didn't get to just by the nature of the beast and the high volume of questions. So I am working on them. They are not lost. I'm happy to work through some of these questions though. So Michelle's question, I have a patient who was transferred to my facility with an acute esophageal rupture post-EGD. He was septic and intubated. We did an emergent repair and biopsy, which revealed cancer. 6 days later, he went for an esophagectomy. Would this patient be included in the analysis? There's no way to account for his illness prior to surgery. If you want to pull up the analysis overview document, and that'd probably be helpful.
Okay.
Well, she's pulling that up. To some extent, there is a way to account for his illness in terms of his ECOG score is really going to be a good way to capture the severity of his illness. I can't imagine that his ECOG score was very great going into the patients with esophageal ruptures generally are not doing super well. But if you scroll down to what gets excluded, only elective procedures are included.
Mhm.
So if this is defined as not being elective, it would be excluded automatically.
Mhm.
And then patients with an ASA class of 6. So I mean, I think, you know, if your surgeon doesn't call this elective, it's going to go out. And I guess you're going to have that conversation with your surgeon to some extent, whether they felt it was an urgent repair. It's my guess is that they considered this objecting urgent. If a lung cancer patient underwent left upper lobe wedge resection along with aortic surgery and incidentally found pathology T2NX, a couple months later had a completion left upper lobectomy, pathology T0N0, is the lobectomy a planned stage procedure? No, it's not planned stage unless it was planned stage going into the initial procedure, which would have been documented upfront. And since it was incidentally noted disease, I doubt that it was planned stage, but you'd have to look at your pre-op H&P for that first aortic surgery. You would indeed use T2N0 as your final pathology for the lobectomy, the T2 from your original resection, and then your nodal staging was completed at the end of the second procedure. So your comprehensive pathology. Patient has a neurofibroma and surgeon removed chest tumor related. Do I abstract this as a chest wall tumor? I don't know off the top of my head, Mary. You can send that one into the FAQ inbox if you wouldn't mind. On IQVIA, my upload number is 258, but my GTSD non-analyzed dashboard report says 218. Shouldn't they match?
Yeah, I sent Mindy a message and I asked her, we're going to set some time together. I'm going to do a session with her and we're going to look at her reports together because I may need to ask IQVIA some questions and they're not on these calls any longer. So I'm going to schedule some one-on-one time with Mindy and we're going to look at her reports together.
I think the next one's for you too. When I requested a password reset through the help desk, I didn't hear back until the next day and not until mid-morning Pacific Coast time. Will there be faster turnaround times in the future or an automatic password reset option? Longer support hours? What are the support hours? Susan, I appreciate your question because guess what? I reset my password every time I log in. I never, never in the history of all time.
So our support team, I believe, honestly, I think it's a 48-hour turnaround. I can't remember off the top of my head. Like I said, this is a whole new process and Carol, please correct me if I'm wrong on anything here. So they do ask for a 48-hour turnaround time. They process, obviously, you know, requests in the order then that they've received. So I will send this feedback back to our support staff, Jane and team, and get just let them know. I don't know if there's going to be an automatic password reset option in the future. So our support team works on our central hours, our central time. So again, we do ask for the 48-hour support time and they get back to you as quickly as possible. But Susan, I will get this feedback back to them and follow up with you if there are any additional information. I don't know, Carol, do you have any other info on the support hours? I'm sorry, I'm not, like I said, it's a new process, so I don't want to misspeak.
No, I think it's taking, you know, up to 72 hours for things. I think that they have an email that gets generated back out, Leanne.
Okay.
With that, let me see if I can easily pull it up. Hold on one
Yeah.
second, just to see what it says.
And they've just had such a high a high influx of questions, so they are working through them, Susan, and getting through them as quickly as and efficiently as they can. So, but I would definitely appreciate your feedback and we'll take that back to Jane and her team. So I can answer the next one. Will blank ECOG scores come up as missing on the missing variable report? So I think the blank ECOG comes up. So missing ECOG will come up in your reports, but it is important to know, I think it comes up as an error in your data quality report. So it will come up as an error. However, missing ECOG does not exclude a record from analysis. So it will be reported as missing in your data quality report or you know, a variable report, but it will not, the record will not be excluded, and that's stated explicitly in the training manual as well. The missing ECOG will not cause your record to be excluded from analysis. And again, that is stated in the training manual if you need to take a screenshot or snip that to and share with your team.
Joanne's question regarding having the discharge date reflect the expiration date. What if you're unable to find the expiration date? I.e. no answer at patient's home if discharged to home hospice. I generally, if I cannot find the date of a patient's death who is discharged to hospice, contact the hospice organization and they can always tell me the patient's date of death. Otherwise, it often gets put in the surgeon's office notes I've found, or you can search for the obituary, and usually there's enough corroborating evidence in the obituary that you can confirm that it is indeed that person. I've never had that come up personally, where hospice didn't know the date of the patient's death because they usually end their services at that point. Laura, no, we're talking about that question tomorrow. So the pre-op lab timeframe.
Wait, Friday, right?
Yep.
Yep, Friday.
We're talking about that one Friday. It's on my list. Shavi, if a patient has a lobectomy on one side of the lung and 2 months later has a segmentectomy, can I use the same PFT? Yes, you may use the same PFT. Somebody else asked that question in this cycle too. So maybe I should put that in the training manual as an FAQ. The surgeon does not do an ECOG score. I leave it blank on the form. When I uploaded to IQVIA, I got a critical error message. I thought it was mandatory.
You should not be getting a critical error for ECOG. If you can, Brenda, take a screenshot for me of what you're seeing and email that to me, so I can take a look at it and work with IQVIA to see, just so I can take a look at what you're seeing. And just email that to me here, ljones@sts.org, and I'll help you out with that. But also, if your surgeon's not documenting ECOG and they're still not documenting ECOG, highly encourage you to work with your surgeon to please start documenting ECOG. Sorry, Ruth.
No, it will impact your risk adjustment if they're not
Right.
entering ECOG. You really want them. I mean, I think they really want to do that if they understand the impact that it's going to have on their risk adjustment by leaving it blank.
Right.
And it does not have to be necessarily your surgeon. It could be any clinician who has physically assessed the patient. Beth's question, will tumor size 0 centimeters for ground glass be counted against our star rating as it is outside of the range? Can you pull up the analysis overview? I think that's where we're gonna find that information.
Tumor size 0. I need to go to lobectomy. Tumor size 0.
I don't think it's gonna exclude your patients from the analysis, if that's your question. I'm not 100% sure that's your question. If your page has, or your patient has stage 0 or like a TIS, it gets excluded from the analysis. Sorry. But otherwise I don't think it's going to negatively impact you, Beth.
Clinical staging, tumor size 0 centimeters. Is what she clarified. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, it's based on pathological stage. So I think you're fine.
Yeah, Beth, I can confirm that with analysis with the research center. So if you want to just shoot that to me in an email, please do so and I'll confirm. oh, sorry. I think Ruth, the Kelly
Kelly,
question. Yeah.
a patient. Kelly, if you want to send that one into the FAQ mailbox, if you haven't already, that'd be great. And Priya has a question about outstanding errors in the harvest summary, preventing data from being analyzed. How critical of an issue is this?
Well, if you could send me some examples of the outstanding errors that you have, I don't want to I don't know which errors you're referring to. So if you could just give me an example, and I can take a look at it. Happy to review it, but I don't know which outstanding errors you're referring to. So I don't want to say yes, no, I'm just not sure. ECOGs, no, ECOG will not keep your record. Missing ECOG will not keep your records from being excluded. And that's in the training manual under ECOG. So that is clarified there if you need to screenshot it and share it with your team. But again, like Ruth said, highly encourage your clinicians to document ECOG as it can impact their star rating. It's imputed to the lowest. Right, Ruth? Yeah.
Yep, it's imputed to 0.
Zero.
Your patients will have, if your patient truly was an ECOG of 1 or 2, then we have incorrectly not risk adjusted that patient.
All right.
It looks like Jane joined. Did we want to circle back to the question about passwords from the help desk?
Oh, sure. Oops, hold on. Let's see here. Let me get back to the question. Hi, Jane.
Hi, all.
So we had a question regarding current hours for support. Hold on, trying to find the question. Hold on, I'm sorry. So I can read it specifically to you. When I requested a password reset, did not hear back until the next day and not until mid-morning Pacific Coast time. Will there be faster turnaround in the future? Will there be an automatic password reset option, longer support hours? And what are the support hours?
The support hours are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time. We ask for folks to give us approximately 2 business days. We try to get back to people as soon as possible, but there are only 2 people staffing help desk currently, and we're doing the best we can. If the user sets up their challenge questions and forgets one's password, the challenge questions will prompt you to reset your password. So you should be able to do that on your own once your challenge questions are set up. And just as a rule that I wanted to announce to everybody, because I'm not sure that everyone's aware, the platform actually has a security feature in place where it automatically deactivates a person's account if they don't log in once every 6 months. So we recommend that users log in as frequently as possible, but at least once every 6 months so that your accounts are not temporarily deactivated.
Awesome. Thank you, Jane.
Hope that helps.
Yes, very helpful. Thank you very much. Ruth, did you want to answer Laura's question?
How long should we attempt to try and obtain the 1-year follow-up for hiatal hernia cases? I still have cases from 2018 that I have not been able to get in touch with, but I try every submission. Laura, I admire your persistence. I don't know if the SCS has a hard and fast rule on how long data managers are required to try and find that 1-year follow-up. I mean, obviously at this point, probably not going to happen. Carol, is there any for the hernia cases?
Especially they're optional. They're not mandatory. Yeah. So I don't think we've even discussed that.
That's tricky.
It is tricky because
did we remove this in the, oh no, this is still in
version
5.521.
Yeah. We can bring it back to CEDAR. Like 18, those cases are not.
They're not even in the analysis.
They're not even in the analysis. I mean, we're reporting 2020 through 2022.
Yeah, let's ask Dr. CEDAR in the task force how they would like us to go about it, if there's a time frame, or if, since these cases are strictly optional, not required at all, you know, what kind of guidance can they give us and how important is this data?
Laura, if you could email that question to, is my email on here? No. If you could email that question directly to Leanne and just say that it's for the task force, that way it doesn't get circled into the FAQ mailbox, that'd be great.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Carol. That's excellent.
Yeah, of course.
Along that same line, how far back should we go to log in a patient expiration when we discover a death? We can ask that question at the same time.
I think we always, Carol, anytime we discover a death, we recommend they go back and update the date of death, correct?
Oh, guess what? I was on mute. Yeah, I agree. I think if you find out that the patient died, I would go in and enter that date of death. It's not going to screw up your analysis looking like an operative mortality if it's past the time frame. So the 30 days or the in-hospital deaths that count towards operative deaths, if the death occurs outside of that time frame, it's not going to screw up your data analytics, but it is helpful information to know so you can have it at your site and so that it's in the database, but mostly so it's at your site.
Excellent. And our next question, when verifying you're under the 2% threshold for missing data, do you run the participant dashboard report separately for lobectomy and esophagectomy or both together to get the accurate percentage? I personally would look at them individually. I would want to make sure my threshold is, my data is complete and accurate as possible. So
Yeah.
I would run them individually. I would run them together. I would look at all of my records.
Yeah, I agree, Leanne. I would run them separately. I would run the lobectomy. I would run the pulmonary resection, and I would run the esophagectomy separately because that's how the 2% thresholds are applied.
Yep. I agree. All right. Okie dokie. I am not seeing any additional questions come in. Like I said, I did go over the harvest close reports that were available, the checklist. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me directly. Mindy, please shoot me an email, and happy to, we'll set up a time to walk through those reports and get your questions answered. Again, if you all have any questions, just please feel free to reach out to me directly. Happy to help assist in any way prior to harvest close. With that, I guess we'll go ahead and end things about 10 minutes early. Thank you, Ruth. Thanks, Carol. Jane, thank you so much for hopping on. We appreciate it. And Ruth, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. We appreciate you all, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And we will see you on March 8th. Well, Carol and Ruth will be there on March 8th for the next monthly webinar, so we appreciate it. Again, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks, everyone. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Stay warm, stay safe, everyone. I hope the ice storm isn't too bad, so stay safe, everyone.